It was 4:03 a.m. when my phone jolted me awake, buzzing once before erupting into a frenzy of alerts. The screen glowed with notifications from the motion sensor on my front gate. I squinted at the grainy feed, expecting a raccoon or maybe some kid pulling a prank. But no, there she was, Lydia Harper, VYC president of our HOA, scaling my 8-foot steel gate like a cat burglar in a sequined robe and pajama pants, clutching a clipboard like it was her lifeline. For a split second, I thought it was a joke. Lydia? The woman who'd fine me for wind chimes that disturbed the peace? But as her face caught the camera's light, muttering HOA bylaws like a zealot, I knew this was no prank. This was war. I didn't budge from my bed, just stared at the live feed on my surveillance app, jaw slack. Lydia, of all people, had gone full ninja, trespassing on my property before the sun was up. The kicker? She had no clue that the gate she was treating like her personal jungle gym was wired to stream directly to the sheriff's emergency node. A year ago, my side gig as a tech consultant for the county cyber unit got me approval for that setup. Every move she made was beaming in real time to every patrol unit within 5 miles, complete with facial recognition and a timestamp. As she shimmied down the gate's inner frame, griping about my unapproved yard lights, I rolled out of bed, brewed a pot of coffee, and waited for the chaos to unfold. Lydia wasn't new to drama. Ever since she got elected to the HOA board, our quiet neighborhood turned into her fiefdom. It started small fines for a neighbor's clashing birdhouse, a crusade against a backyard trampoline she called an aerial threat. I kid you not. But I became her favorite target after I refused to sign her petition to ban solar panels, citing electromagnetic interference. I'd explained calmly that I held a federal license for those panels and had even designed their shielding tech. She didn't take kindly to being schooled. What followed was a barrage of violation notices. Trash been out 2 hours early. Truck parked slightly crooked in my own driveway. I let it slide, figuring she'd burn out. Then came the generator incident. During a storm, Lydia accused me of running unauthorized wiring and called the city, triggering a temporary power shutoff. She didn't know my younger brother, Ethan, relies on a medical bed powered by that generator. The outage nearly sent him to the hospital. That was my breaking point. I lawyered up, filed a report, and after a tense investigation, Lydia signed a settlement agreeing to steer clear of my property. That agreement was still in effect the night she decided to play Mission Impossible. As I sipped my coffee, the first red and blue flashes lit up my windows. A patrol cruiser rumbled into VYEW. I stepped onto my porch just as Lydia hit my driveway, still whispering about code compliance like a broken record. The deputy, Mike, knew me from my cyber unit work. He nodded, then zeroed in on Lydia, who froze, clipboard in hand. "Ma'am, step back," he said. She spun around, all self-righteous. "I'm with the HOA, conducting an inspection for violations," she snapped. At 4 a.m., Mike raised an eyebrow. "That's not an inspection. That's trespassing." I pulled out my phone and showed them the footage of crystal clear angles from 3 lenses, including a thermal overlay for extra flare. Mike watched 10 seconds before nodding. "And behind your back, ma'am." Lydia's face crumpled as the cuffs clicked. Her favorite line, "I'm on the board," fell flat as she was loaded into the cruiser. I couldn't help but think back to how this all started. Lydia hadn't always been a gate-climbing lunatic. Once, she was just a nosy neighbor who threw potlucks and handed out flyers about community cleanliness. But power changed her. The barbecue incident was the first red flag. She'd stormed a neighbor's cookout with a measuring tape, declared the grill a fire hazard, and called the fire department. When they found nothing, she fined a family for blocking airflow with smoke plumes. Who even thinks like that? By 8 a.m., the neighborhood Facebook page was a war zone. Someone probably mic leaked the footage, and it spread like wildfire. Memes popped up. Lydia mid-climb with Mission Impossible music or edited with circus sound effects. Comments range from "she's lost it" to popcorn gifs. A few, like a woman named Margaret, argued we shouldn't mock someone in a mental health crisis. But Lydia's recent selfie, captioned "restoring order to chaos" with a nod to HOA bylaws, undercut that sympathy fast. By noon, a neighbor I barely knew dropped off donuts with a whispered, "Thanks for taking her down." Another asked if I'd install his cameras, winking about raccoon problems. I just smiled and headed to my backyard workshop. That workshop was my sanctuary, part hobby space, part control center. Feeds from every corner of my property ran on screens, synced to a server stack under the workbench. I replayed Lydia's climb in slow motion, zooming in on her face. No fear, no doubt, just pure con VY tie-in, like she was SAVYing the neighborhood from anarchy. That was the scariest part. She genuinely believed she was above the law. But I wasn't just some homeowner. I knew her game and played it better, with facts, footage, and perfect timing. The next morning, the neighborhood buzzed louder than a 4th of July parade. My porch became a pilgrimage site. Neighbors lingered, grinning, dropping hints for gossip. One brought coffee just to ask about my security system. I never wanted to be the drama king, but when your gate footage goes VY and cuffs the HOA tyrant, the spotlight finds you. To understand Lydia's reign, you have to know her origin story. She started as the overly chatty neighbor, always prying about your trash pickup. Her potlucks were nice, but her obsession with order morphed into control. The barbecue fiasco wasn't her only stunt. She fined a kid for chalk drawings, called it graffiti. A holiday wreath's non-standard ribbon cost someone due law $150. If you didn't fit her mold, you were toast. I'd stayed off her radar until the generator fight. That night, with power lines down, she reported me for an illegal energy operation. City officials found my permits in order, but not before Lydia's tantrum in the Rainwa VY in a laminated HOA clause caused a 12-hour delay in our generator switch. Ethan ended up in the ER. I compiled every notice, every petty jab, and took her to court. The settlement was clear: stay away. But Lydia couldn't resist. Days before her climb, I got a notice about my yard lights disrupting wildlife migration, paired with a photo taken from inside my fence. That's when I upgraded my system: infrared, sheriff sync, the works. I wanted justice. The HOA board tried to regroup with an emergency meeting, but they forgot one detail. I own the land their clubhouse sits on. I bought it in a tax auction years ago, a fact they ignored until I changed the locks and taped a note. Emergency meetings need landowner approval. Photos of the board, baffled outside their own building, hit the internet. Instead of their secret huddle, I threw a code compliance celebration. Burgers sizzled, music blared, and I projected Lydia's climb on a bedsheet. Neighbors brought lawn chairs, chips, even a cake shaped like a clipboard with "You're not above the law" and icing. It wasn't just a party, it was a rebellion. Then came a tap on my shoulder. A man in a navy button-up, badge clipped to his belt, introduced himself as Assistant Director Hayes from the mayor's office. In my workshop, with surveillance feeds flickering, he dropped a bomb. Lydia had a rap sheet complaints from multiple HOAs, plus a due law 4,000 grant application with forged signatures, including mine. She'd faked photos of community improvements and listed herself as the vendor. I handed over timestamps, landscaping records, and her own notices contradicting her claims. Hayes grinned. This could go felony. A local journalist called later, asking about Lydia finding a disabled kid for chalk. I confirmed it. By sunset, the HOA board was fracturing. Some wanted Lydia gone, others played dumb. But they'd all enabled her. 2 weeks later, Lydia faced a judge in a packed courtroom. Neighbors filled the gallery, not for gossip, but for justice. Lydia sat, diminished, her lawyer floundering. The prosecutor played the footage, her robe fluttering, flashlight in teeth, ranting about codes at 4 a.m. The judge, a no-nonsense woman, shut down the defense's emergency inspection excuse. Then came the kicker. A search of Lydia's home uncovered satellite maps with my house marked target, plus a code raid folder with fabricated violations. Her obsession was undeniable. I testified briefly, explaining Ethan's medical needs and Lydia's dangerous meddling. The judge asked why I'd secured my property so thoroughly. "Because my brother's life depends on it," I said. The room went still. Lydia was found guilty of trespassing, harassment, and violating a court order. Fraud charges were escalated. She got community share VYC, fines, psychological evaluation, and a 5-year HOA ban, plus a 200-foot restraining order. As she was let out, neighbors clapped softly, not cruelly, but freely. Outside, they hugged, swapped stories, and passed me a gift card with a note. Thank you for standing up. The HOA paused citations, and residents pitched ideas for a real community block parties. No more spy inspections. That night, my porch felt different. The streetlights glowed softer, the air lighter. Lydia's shadow was gone. But the story didn't end there. The Attorney General picked up Lydia's case, uncovering identical scams in other HOAs. My EVY Denke sparked a statewide probe, earning me a letter of recognition. The neighborhood threw a block party, bounce houses, grills, kids with chalk, no fines. A teen named Max showed a pixelated animation of Lydia's saga, ending with, "Real neighbors protect, not punish." Someone gifted me a sign, Lydia's climb, now bolted to my gate, a reminder of what happens when power goes unchecked. Lydia sold her house and vanished. New owners painted their door turquoise. No one cared. The board passed reforms. No secret fines, ethics pledges, transparency audits. The neighborhood wasn't just healing, it was thrive-VYing. As I stood on my porch, VY nest curling up the gate, I felt a rare peace. Birds chirped, dogs barked, and no one got a citation. Lydia's climb wasn't just her downfall. It was our wake-up call. But I knew we had to stay vigilant. Others could rise, clipboards in hand. For now, though, the sign on my gate said it all. A line was drawn, and we'd backed it up with truth. What do you think? Did Lydia deserve her fate? Or was she just a misguided soul pushed too far? Should HOAs have this much power, or are they a recipe for petty tyrants? And who's the real VY laying here, the rulebook or the one wielding it? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button if you felt the justice, and subscribe for more stories where the little guy fights back.